Rods snapping mid-hook set, reels failing under moderate drag, over 3,000 gear failure reports flooding angler forums in a single year. This is the reality for fishermen who trusted the largest outdoor retailer in the country with their most critical equipment. Bass Pro Shops helped drive independent tackle shops from 14,000 to fewer than 7,000 nationwide. Today, 70% of what fills those shelves is private label product. And in 2026, big box fishing tackle sales fell 7%. To understand why millions of anglers stopped buying, you have to understand what made them start. In 1992, a new kind of fishing store opened its doors in Springfield, Missouri. Unlike the cramped aisles of the old tackle shops, this place felt more like an indoor wilderness. Waterfalls, aquariums, and mounted wildlife surrounded shelves stacked with gear for every species and season. The first Bass Pro Shops adventure prototype drew crowds from across the region, not just for the selection, but for the experience itself. By 1997, 15 of these immersive stores operated in states as far apart as Texas and Colorado, each one designed to be a destination as much as a retailer. The strategy was clear. Offer everything under one roof, cut prices through volume, and make shopping part of the outdoorsman's ritual. Weekend road trips now included a stop at Bass Pro, where families spent hours testing rods in casting ponds or watching live demonstrations. For anglers used to specialty shops with limited stock and variable hours, the convenience was hard to beat. Store layouts emphasized broad aisles, massive product displays, and branded sections that promised expertise and authority. Behind the scenes, the supply chain built for scale. Centralized warehousing and bulk contracts with major manufacturers gave Bass Pro leverage to negotiate lower costs, which translated directly into competitive pricing on the sales floor. The early stores featured both national brands and the first wave of private label gear, often at prices that undercut local competitors by 10 to 20%. This combination of selection, spectacle, and savings drew in both beginners and lifelong fishermen, fueling a rapid geographic leap. By the end of the decade, Bass Pro's model had proven itself. The chain's growth outpaced traditional tackle shops, which struggled to match the convenience and pricing power of the big box format. What started as a single store in Missouri had become a multi-state phenomenon, reshaping the way millions of Americans bought their fishing gear. The groundwork was laid for the consolidation and dominance that would follow. The national reach of Bass Pro Shops accelerated sharply after 2005, when the company acquired Nautical Outfitters, a regional tackle chain with deep roots in the Midwest. This buyout added dozens of locations overnight and brought in a new wave of loyal customers who had previously relied on independent stores. By 2010, Bass Pro had launched an e-commerce platform, further extending its influence beyond physical locations and allowing anglers from coast to coast to browse the same vast catalog of gear. The next leap came in 2015 with the opening of the Orlando Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World, a sprawling complex that blended retail, entertainment, and education under one roof. This megastore, featuring casting ponds, archery ranges, and a full-service restaurant, drew visitors from across the Southeast. The Orlando launch set a new template for the brand's identity, positioning the store as both a shopping destination and a family attraction. By the end of that year, Bass Pro Shops operated 55 stores nationwide, each designed to deliver the same immersive experience and comprehensive selection. Meanwhile, the number of independent tackle shops continued to fall. According to industry surveys, the shop count dropped from around 14,000 in the early 1990s to just under 7,000 by 2023. The convenience and scale of the big box model, combined with aggressive pricing and massive inventory, made it increasingly difficult for smaller retailers to survive. Regional variation persisted. Some boutique shops held out in coastal and specialty markets, but the overall trend was unmistakable. In 2023, Bass Pro Shops finalized a landmark merger with Cabela's, its largest national competitor. The combined entity now operated 150 locations, unified logistics, and a single purchasing arm capable of negotiating unprecedented volume discounts. This consolidation cemented the dominance of the megastore format, ensuring that for most American anglers, the local tackle shop had been replaced by a national retail giant. The era of regional variety and hands-on expertise gave way to a standardized, branded experience on a scale the industry had never seen. Walking into a Bass Pro Shops in 2026, most anglers are met with a sense of assurance. The wide aisles are lined with hundreds of rods, reels, and lures, each displayed under bright lights and wrapped in packaging stamped with phrases like Pro Series or Tournament Grade. For many shoppers, the sheer scale and polish of these displays signal reliability. A national survey conducted last year found that 68% of anglers trust the quality of gear purchased at big box outdoor retailers, a figure that climbs even higher among first-time buyers. Price points reinforce this perception. A mid-range spinning combo, for example, often retails between $49 and $59, sitting squarely in the comfort zone for hobbyists looking for value without breaking the bank. Store signage highlights savings and exclusive deals, while staff in branded shirts offer advice on matching gear to local waters. The variety is staggering. A single aisle might feature over 300 different SKUs, yet most share the same handful of house brands. In fact, industry data from 2026 shows that nearly 70% of the fishing gear on these shelves carries a private label badge, a ratio that has steadily increased over the past decade. For the average shopper, these cues, brand names, price tags, and the volume of choice create a sense that quality is a given. The logic seems straightforward. A retailer with national reach, professional displays, and competitive pricing must surely be delivering on its promise. But as more experienced anglers have learned, the story behind the label can be far more complicated than the packaging suggests. Inside the lab at the Composite Materials Institute, Dr. Lena Chen lines up two fishing rods, nearly identical at first glance, but worlds apart on the inside. She points out that the graphite blank on the left costs $2.50 per kilogram, while the one on the right was sourced for $1.50. That single dollar difference, she explains, doesn't just trim the price tag. It means a 12% drop in stiffness, confirmed by independent flex tests on private label rods sold after 2022. The lower-cost graphite, now standard for many mid-range Bass Pro models, contains more filler and fewer high-strength fibers. The result is a blank that flexes more under load and recovers less crisply after a cast. Nearly half, 48% of the rod blanks on Bass Pro's shelves in 2026 originate from Vietnamese factories. These plants have ramped up production as labor costs in China climbed, but the shift came with trade-offs. Dr. Chen's team measured up to 15% variation in casting distance between rods carrying the same SKU. The cause? Inconsistent material batches and minimal functional testing at the factory level. Most quality checks rely on visual inspection and basic dimensional gauges, not the kind of stress testing that reveals subtle weaknesses in the blank. For the angler, these invisible compromises play out on the water. A rod that feels lively in the aisle might lose power after a season, or snap under a routine load. The savings at the register are real, but so is the risk. Lost fish, ruined outings, and the creeping doubt that what's on the label no longer matches what's inside. Dr. Chen's findings set the stage for a deeper look at how supply chain decisions ripple out from the factory floor to the heart of every fishing trip. A fishing rod on the shelf may have crossed borders multiple times before reaching a store. Production often starts in China, where graphite or fiberglass is sourced, then moves to Vietnam for shaping and onto Indonesia for assembly. The paperwork that follows, a Certificate of Conformity or COC, rarely covers more than basic specs or a visual check. Industry insiders say the COC is often a rubber stamp signed without real testing. This opens the door to wide variability, even within the same model number. Kelly Brown, who has spent 20 years in outdoor retail supply chains, points to the standard swap clause in contracts. Manufacturers can substitute up to 20% of components or materials if the rod passes a basic inspection. So, two rods labeled Pro Series might have different internal materials, depending on the batch. Quality control usually stops at checking that blanks are straight and guides are attached. There is almost no stress testing for flex or durability before shipping. At the retailer's warehouse, checks focus on packaging and barcodes, not performance. The result? Rods and reels can meet every paperwork requirement yet still fail on the water, leaving anglers with unpredictable gear and broken promises. Rod packaging in 2026 is covered with phrases like premium graphite and tournament grade, yet these terms have no industry standard. Catalogs and shelf tags use language that suggests high performance, but lab tests tell a different story. For example, rods labeled as premium graphite can be built with graphite blends that vary widely in quality. Independent flex tests on private label rods sold after 2022 measured a 12% variance in blank stiffness, enough to change how a rod loads and casts, even among units with the same model number. This discrepancy is not limited to rods. Lures marked as precision weight showed up to 15% deviation in lab studies, affecting casting accuracy and hook set reliability. Marketing copy often lists features like pro action or engineered for tournament use, but these claims are rarely backed by transparent data. The term premium may refer to little more than a mid-grade graphite mixed with fillers, while tournament is a label applied across a wide price range, regardless of actual field performance. In practice, an angler may buy two identical-looking rods with the same branding, only to find that one flexes more than the other and delivers a shorter cast. These gaps between catalog promise and lab measurement erode trust and leave anglers questioning whether the gear on the shelf matches the reliability suggested by its packaging. On a humid August morning in 2025, Smith set out before sunrise, hoping for a shot at a trophy largemouth on mid-lake. The rod in his hand was a 7-foot Pro Series graphite model, picked up at the local Bass Pro kiosk just weeks before. As he worked the shoreline, a heavy strike bent the rod deep. The next moment, a sharp crack echoed across the water. The blank snapped clean at the butt, leaving Smith holding a useless stump while the fish thrashed and vanished. Later, a video of the incident circulated on social media, showing the break in slow motion. The rod's packaging had promised tournament-grade performance, but the reality was a lost catch, a ruined morning, and a $79 replacement cost. Lindsay's story followed a similar path. In the spring of 2022, she upgraded to a tournament-grade X500 spinning reel, drawn in by claims of saltwater toughness and smooth drag. On a charter out of the Florida Keys, her first real test came against a fast-running mahi-mahi. 15 minutes into the fight, the reel's drag gave out completely. The line went slack, the fish was gone, and Lindsay was left cranking a handle that spun without resistance. Later inspection revealed scorched drag washers and plastic gear teeth stripped bare. The captain's log for that trip noted the failure, and the replacement reel, purchased at a discount, lasted less than a season before showing the same symptoms. For both Smith and Lindsay, the disappointment wasn't just about broken gear. It was the realization that the packaging and brand reputation didn't match the equipment's real-world performance. Each failure came with a cost: lost fish, wasted time, and the sense that the promise of reliability had become just another part of the marketing. These moments on the water brought the issue into sharp focus, raising questions about what anglers are actually getting for their money. In May 2024, a charter crew in the Florida Keys recorded the moment a tournament-grade X500 spinning reel lost its drag under the steady pull of a mahi-mahi. The captain's log listed the failure at just over 15 minutes into the fight. When the reel was later tested in a drag load comparison, it registered a 23% drop in holding power compared to a specialist shop model of similar price. The replacement cost, $109 for the reel, plus a lost day's catch, was only the beginning. Within weeks, the incident became a talking point across online forums. Analytics from Bass Resource and The Whole Truth show 3,200 posts about reel drag and rod blank failures in the 12 months that followed, with users trading advice on everything from warranty claims to DIY repairs. Many threads linked back to private label models sold at national chains, especially those marketed as tournament grade or Pro Series. Riley Kwan, a data analyst and lifelong angler, began tracking these complaints. Her spreadsheet mapped out failure clusters by SKU, production lot, and purchase date. Patterns emerged: spikes in failures after certain overseas production runs, and a strong correlation between lower-cost models and higher rates of drag loss or blank breakage. Tom Reed, who runs a regional tackle shop, noticed a change in his own sales numbers. Customers who once bought replacement gear at big box stores started coming in asking for side-by-side drag tests and inquiring about manufacturer transparency. Reed's records show a 17% increase in sales of premium reels and rods since 2024, mostly to anglers who cited reliability as their top concern. Nielsen's 2026 retail audit puts hard numbers to the trend. National sales of premium rods and reels at large chains fell by 7% over 2 years, even as overall fishing participation held steady. The ripple effect is clear. Every gear failure that circulates online or in a dockside conversation chips away at the perception of value. For many, the hidden costs, lost fish, wasted trips, and the price of replacement now outweigh the promise of savings at the register. Mike Miller, a longtime tackle shop owner in Austin, has watched the shift in angler behavior firsthand. Instead of relying on packaging claims or brand reputation, more customers now ask to bench test rods before making a purchase. On a typical afternoon, Miller sets up a 130-pound test bench in the back of his shop. Here, rods are flexed and loaded until they reach their rated limit, giving buyers a chance to feel the difference between blanks that recover crisply and those that wobble or fail to spring back. This hands-on approach stands in contrast to the big box experience, where inspection is limited to what can be seen through shrink wrap and glossy labels. A recent survey of experienced anglers revealed a 48% increase in buyer confidence after performing simple in-store tests, checking guide alignment, feeling for blank consistency, and testing reel drag under load. These steps take only a few minutes but can reveal flaws that would otherwise go unnoticed until a crucial moment on the water. Miller encourages customers to bring their own reels and lines, setting up side-by-side comparisons between shop-stocked brands and mass-market models. The goal is not to upsell, but to restore trust that has eroded with each failed cast or broken blank. For many, the act of inspecting gear in person, feeling the weight, flex, and hardware, has become a form of insurance. It's a practical response to years of disappointment, and it's changing how serious anglers approach every purchase. Rather than accepting the promise on the box, they rely on their own hands and eyes, rebuilding confidence one rod and reel at a time. Today, anglers weigh the cost of convenience against the risk of unreliable gear, because one failed component means more than money lost. As mass production and branding outpace real quality control, trust erodes at the water's edge. For fishermen, the real price isn't on the tag, but in every cast that counts. The lesson: reliability is earned, not packaged. Share your own experiences in the comments below.